Hey there, everyone. Michelle Hasty Thompson here. How's it going? I'm coming to you live today. We're going to talk about the five most overlooked threats to your weight. And these may not be the typical things you're used to hearing when you think about what could get in the way of you getting to your ideal body. We hear about things like sugar and carbs and maybe something to do with movement or exercise, but we're going to talk about some things that people aren't really bringing up to the forefront when it comes to our weight and our health and our food and all that good stuff. So these are the five most overlooked threats to your body and weight. The first one is your language. And the thing is that people don't realize how much our language influences what's going on in the body, but this has been proven. The way that, even if you just look at the placebo effect, the way the placebo effect works, we're talking about just thinking that something is going to work and seeing results from that. So we know that there's a lot of power behind our thoughts, our beliefs, our words. And a good example, there's two examples I want to give you. One is a study and one is just kind of a hypothetical situation. The milkshake study basically was a study where they took a group of participants and they gave them two milkshakes that were identical in ingredients, and they told them, we just want to get your opinion on the different tastes, or different things about these two milkshakes. One milkshake was labeled healthy and one milkshake was labeled unhealthy based on the ingredients. It had like a one milkshake on the ingredient label had like ice cream, and it said like high, like full fat or whatever it said, and one was like low fat and sensible and that kind of thing. But in reality, they were completely this, like 100% the same milkshake, just two different labels. And what they did was they measured what the body did with those two milkshakes, and if there was a difference in the way the body took in that same exact ingredient. And turns out there was a massive difference. So the body responded differently to the two milkshakes, even though the ingredients were identical. And this is why I always tell people it's not as simple as just eat healthy food. If it were, there wouldn't be any problems, because people do that all the time. And at some point, it doesn't always work out. So, what we want to see happen is that, oh, wait, first of all, the second example. The second example is if you give someone who's never experienced any issues with weight, they just eat healthy food, and or maybe they don't just eat healthy food, but they eat food and they move and they do whatever. They just don't think about it. They don't think about food. They don't think about weight. They just do what they do. Now, if you give that person a salad, that salad represents potentially what they wanted for lunch that day. It represents healthy, nutritious, nurturing food. It represents whatever the nutrients and vitamins and minerals are that's in the food. And it's pretty much just that. However, if you give that same salad, identical ingredients, to someone who has been trying to lose weight for 30 years, battling, doing different diets, battling their body, battling food for 30 years, that salad has an entirely different meaning. And now this salad means potentially the thing I'm supposed to be eating because it's good for me, the thing that's supposedly going to burn fat so I don't gain weight, the thing that I don't really want because I really want lasagna, the thing that, why don't I crave more of this? What's wrong with me? And so just psychologically, there's all these different thoughts going on. And then physiologically, we know the body will respond differently to identical ingredients. And so we can't pretend like that doesn't play a role. So if somebody says, my problem is cake, for example, it's not cake that's the problem. Cake has no power. Cake's just cake. It's flour, it's eggs, it's sugar, it's whatever the ingredients are. And if you overeat cake, cake is still not the problem, right? Overeating is the problem. So the reason why this comes back to language is because if all day long you're trying to fix your issues with cake, you're not really going to get anywhere, because cake's not the problem. Instead, if you look at, well, why am I overeating cake? That's a completely different sentence. It has a completely different problem solving avenue than just, I have issues with cake, or I have issues with carbs, or I have issues with nighttime eating. Like, these are the kinds of things I hear all the time from my clients. But it's not the whole story, and it's not the right language, because those things are just the response or reaction to what the problem is, right? Real quick, if you would like to do a deep dive and see what's really working now to finally end this never ending cycle of food and weight struggles, I want to invite you to set up a private phone consultation with me. I'm going to show you overwhelming evidence for why your diets are sabotaging you, and we'll map out a customized plan for you to get the results that you're looking for. And it's 100% tailored to you. Speakwithmichelle.com, totally free. Jump on that opportunity. I highly recommend it. Okay. That was number one. So number one is your language. These are the 5 most overlooked threats to your weight. Number 2, living in survival. So we tend to think that living in survival is relatively harmless, specifically to our weight. But while we may admit, like, it's not ideal, like I talk to people all the time, and when I'm asking them, like, what's going on? Tell me what the deal is with this weight and food stuff. And they'll say, it's getting in the way here, and it's not allowing me to be as social, as outgoing, as I'm hiding a lot. I'm constantly thinking about food. I'm constantly thinking about weight. And then I'll ask them, well, what is this affecting? Like, in terms of other areas of your life? Like, is it getting in the way of your work? Is it getting in the way of relationships? Is it getting in the way of you being your full version of you? Yes, it is. Then I'll ask them, what is it costing you? How many times have you invested in another diet? How many times have you invested in another book? What about investing in different sizes of wardrobes? What about investing in whatever health potential problems come up because of this, the stress of it all? Or just like sometimes I work with diabetics, and they know they're not supposed to eat sugar, and then they do it because they don't understand why they do it, and then they have the repercussions of that. And so there's all this stuff happening that is not the way we want it to be. And we have this underlying desire of, I want a life where this is a non-issue. But the problem is that we keep convincing ourselves that it's not that bad. And we'll usually do that by comparing ourselves to others, or comparing ourselves to worst case scenarios and saying, at least it's not that. For example, at least I'm not 600 pounds. At least I can still fit in an airplane seat. At least I'm still managing it somehow. At least, and so we have these, well, it's bad, but it's not catastrophically bad. And the truth is that it is that bad. And that's not to say your life's falling apart, but just that because you're not living in your ideal thriving type of life, because you're in this more survival type of living, that's bad. Like, you deserve to live a life. You only have this one life, as far as we know. And so you deserve to live this life exactly the way you want it. And you shouldn't have to not participate in social gatherings as much as you'd like to. You shouldn't have to be as less present with your family and loved ones because you're constantly thinking about food and weight. And you shouldn't have to waste money on the same things over and over and over again that just make you more frustrated at the end. And you shouldn't have to waste all that time and energy worrying about what to eat or what not to eat, or what you can or cannot wear. Like, you deserve to live a life where that's a non-issue. But if you keep convincing yourself that it's not that bad, you won't really ever push through it, except for when it does get that bad and you hit that wall where you're like, this is bad. Like, I have reached this number. I saw a picture of myself. It's never been this bad. And then what happens is you do something to change that. So you're like, okay, I got too heavy. I got this too stressed, like, whatever, I'm going to do something about it. And then you do whatever you do, whether it's a diet or a weight loss program or exercise program. And then once you get a little bit of weight off and you're like, whew, man, that was close. That felt really uncomfortable over there, but at least it's not that bad anymore. That's when you notice that you kind of sneak back into that, well, it's not that bad, and things kind of stand still again. So we do have to admit to ourselves that living in survival is not an option. We all deserve to live a life where we're thriving and joyful and vibrant. And if you're battling your weight and food constantly, guess what? You're not doing that. So it's really important that we find that and stand for and really stand for our desires and make sure that we are moving towards them each day and not accepting anything less than that. The third thing is lack of hobbies and fun. Take over our lives. And when it does that, it's like everything else kind of goes to the wayside. And a lot of times I talk to people and they're like, man, I don't really know what my hobbies are, or I don't really have time. It's like, well, guess what? If you weren't constantly trying to lose weight or worrying about what food you're eating or not eating, you might have more time on your hands. And by the way, if this is your life, if this was your last day on the planet, is this how you want to spend it? And I'm not saying that you should all go quit your jobs and like make this the perfect day, but in reason. Like, your days have to add up to not just being work and not just being grinding. There has to be fun in there, and we really have to immerse ourselves in whoever it is that we are. You don't have to be anything crazy, or you don't have to go want to save the world, or but you do need to find some passion, some hobbies, some fun, and really be present and participate in that as full out as you possibly can, because this is our life. And yeah, you might want to weigh less, and yeah, you might not like the way your body looks, and that might in your mind get in the way of you doing all these fun things. But there are still things you can do right now today in this body that you don't like, that would still increase your fun regardless of what your body looks like in this moment, that you can be present with, even if it's just being present with people, which doesn't require any specific weight. And it's really fulfilling and super important to be connected in that way. And so, once again, I just want to invite you to take a deep dive with me into this stuff and let me help you create a customized plan. Remember, it's not a one size fits all approach. So I would really love to sit down and create a customized plan for you, just like you would if you went to a doctor and you said, hey, here's my symptoms and like, what do I need to do? I really want to figure out with you, what is it that you need to do and that you haven't tried yet, and that potentially a different way of looking at, a different way of thinking could accomplish. And that's just at speakwithmichelle.com. So we've gone through 3 of the 5 overlooked threats to your weight: your language, living in survival, and lack of hobbies and fun. The next one is eating to lose weight. Now, this is a huge threat, and this is going to be the one that, well, the next 2 are going to be the ones that people are going to go, wait a second, like, how am I supposed to do it any other way? But unless you want to be someone who's trying to lose weight forever, you really don't want to start off in that direction. So you want to eat like someone who's happy and fulfilled and confident and loving, or values health and likes to have fun and wants to be balanced, not in restrictions or not in extremes, but also not in out of control. And you really want, like, your end goal, I'm assuming, is not to eat like a dieter for the rest of your life. But if you lose weight like that, guess what you're going to have to maintain for the rest of your life? You're going to have to eat like a dieter. And that's hard, because when we get to that point I was talking about earlier, when we get desperate, we say enough is enough, I got to do something about this, is when we start to make those sort of rash decisions to do crazy extreme diets, or like whatever the next fad is or whatever's trending, and like, I'm going to do it, I'm going to get off 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds, and then I'll really figure out the root of all this and fix it. And I hear that all the time. I hear it from other professionals in the field when I tell them, I don't do any manipulation of food or exercise. And they're like, well, but what if you just did that in the beginning, and then once I got some weight off and they didn't feel so much pressure, then you do all your deeper work? Because it doesn't work that way, because I'm going to have to reverse everything you just did. Like, why would we do that? That's insane. I can't do it that way, because everything we talk about after you just did all that manipulation of food and exercise is going to be the opposite of what you just did, and you'll go crazy and you'll be confused. So the truth of the matter is, we want to eat the way you want to eat. When I ask people, when you think about ideal life and this ideal body, how do you see yourself eating? They don't normally say, well, I wake up and eat 6 donuts, and then I have a plate of lasagna, and then I eat 6 bags of chips. And no, it's not. They're like, well, honestly, I easily and effortlessly eat a very healthy, balanced type of diet. Like, I eat carbohydrates, but I don't eat too many of them. I eat a lot of vegetables, but I still enjoy a cookie. And like, it's a very balanced view of eating. And yet what they're doing right now to lose the weight is not balanced whatsoever, which then, like we talked about in other lives, inevitably leads to overeating, binge eating, out of control eating. So I want you to really picture, what is it that you want to see your life? How do you want to eat for the rest of your life if you've never had a weight problem? When you picture the ideal, what does that look like? And I'm pretty sure there's no extremes in that way of eating, but you've been taught, and you've been a good listener, that you have to eat a certain way for weight loss. I have not found that to be true, and I've been doing this for 10 years, and it's not true for me. So I can give you plenty of evidence that tells you the opposite of that. But regardless, don't you think it'd be helpful to eat the way you want to eat for the rest of your life, considering that view of that way of eating is very balanced? So I want you to think about that. And then the last threat to your weight is very similar to the last one. It's when we exercise to lose weight. Now, this is a tough one because we have been taught that exercise burns calories and we have to burn a certain amount of calories to be in a calorie deficit, and that's the only way the body loses weight. Now, I can give you article after article after article, and I'm talking about scholarly research that disproves that. But you'll probably be bored with that. You can go find it yourself. It's expensive to buy those scholarly articles, and I'm still in school in getting my PhD, so I have access to it for free. But the point is, it doesn't work that way. There's too much evidence showing us that people can exercise a crap load and eat in their calorie range and still not lose weight. Or if you've ever seen The Biggest Loser, you'll see that happen. And they'll make up crazy things like, oh, you didn't eat enough this, that's why you didn't lose weight this week. They're working out like 6 hours a day, eating 1,500 calories a day. And how do you not lose weight? And then you'll start to talk about the different macronutrients, and that's not enough calories or whatever the story may be. But the bottom line is that if we exercise to lose weight, we will eventually come to a point where it does not work. And then what do we do instead? A lot of people say, well, if I only exercise to lose weight and then I stop like wanting to lose weight, then I'm going to stop exercising. And trust me, I know that's what you think is going to happen, but it's the total opposite. Once you take the pressure off of exercise, once you take you got to do it, you've got to burn a certain amount of calories or whatever, all of a sudden it becomes this thing you get to choose to do or not do. All of a sudden you can do it for 15 minutes or an hour, it doesn't matter. All of a sudden you can dance or you can do yoga or you can lift weights, it doesn't matter. Like now there's total freedom. We talked about autonomy in a past live. It's total autonomy. It's just like you just exercise because it feels good. You exercise because you can, because you're lucky enough to be able to move. You can exercise to build strength, to build endurance, because it's fun to be with community or other people who exercise. Like there's so many reasons to exercise that if we allow it to be about that, all of a sudden there's no more shoulds or have tos or pressure or force, or it's not no pain, no gain. Now, if you want to exercise in that way because you want to build strength and you want to grow, you want to challenge yourself, that's awesome. Just don't do it to lose weight, because as soon as you do that, it becomes a dysfunctional relationship with movement, and you will find reasons not to do it, even though you really want to do it. And worse than that, you'll get all these other benefits from it. Like when I was a personal trainer, my clients would increase their strength, increase their endurance, increase their flexibility, have just insane results in all these different ways. But if that scale didn't move down, none of that mattered. And they would stop and get frustrated and not want to do it, even though they're getting all these amazing results. So it just strips away all the beauty of what you get from movement. And so those are the 5 overlooked threats. Once again, if you want to do a deep dive into what's really working now to finally end that never-ending cycle of food and weight struggles, I would love to have a private phone call with you. It's totally free, and I'll show you all the overwhelming evidence for why these diets are sabotaging our results and map out a customized plan to get you the results that you're looking for. And it's customized to you. And it might seem far-fetched, but you will discover that you will never need to count another calorie or fat gram ever again. And it's so powerful and so simple, it'll blow your mind. So if you'd like to do that, it's speakwithmichelle.com. Until next time, you guys, have a great rest of your day and weekend, and I'll see you soon.